gentlemen, welcome to the Sleepy G Show. I'm your host and your most. My name is Gomez, and today, even though I know this is going to be shown probably about a month later, but it is Super Bowl Sunday, and I am definitely rooting for a team, and it's not the Chiefs. But other than that, I have a special guest today, and I get like all my guests here on the show. I finally hooked up with my buddy here because it's been kind of almost 9 months we've been trying to set this show up, between sickness, health, family, sickness, health, sickness, and almost snow today. I got to bring in my buddy Danny from the Story of Podcast. Danny, how are you today, bud?
Good, buddy. I can't believe it took 9 months to do it, but we got it, bud.
I know, man. Between either we were sick, you were sick, family happened,
hmm
life happens. As a teacher, too, I understand because my wife's a teacher.
Okay, good. God bless her.
So yeah, she needs it. Trust me. She teaches at school, and then she has to come over home to me, my son, and my daughter. So I feel even worse for her. I'm surprised she's not an alcoholic yet. Um, but it's been a while, and I'm so pumped to have you on the show. But
Yeah,
we're gonna
buddy.
touch on a little bit of everything today. But the first thing we're gonna talk about is your podcast. How did you come up with your name of the podcast?
So, the idea came during COVID, right?
Okay.
And I remember, maybe it was just due to the isolation, but it was just kind of like, I was thinking about this idea, this creative itch.
Hmm.
And every once in a while, I don't know, like I said, it's just this creative itch, and I've got to create something. And, I used to do art. And so I used to get the creative itch where it came to drawing or things like that. And I got that same thing again. I just couldn't scratch it. I was like, well, what about a podcast? And I just thought about it for a while. It's just kind of just going, through the head. And I'm a history teacher, but I like weird shit. And so I said, how can I put together a podcast that's going to be I can talk about weird things, and then I could also gives me an excuse to hang out with my buddies, right?
Right.
And so yeah, I it just came up with this idea of the story of where it could just be the story of anything. And I
Hmm.
didn't really necessarily pigeonhole myself into a corner where it has to be history or it has to be this or it's that.
Right.
We do kind of highlight the weird and the absurd and some conspiracy theories and things like that. Those are the fun ones. But we've done episodes on sports and song names and you name it, weird jobs in history. But that was really it. And then so from there, it just kind of was like, all right, how can we kind of make something that's a little bit different? And so we went into the whole idea of we research the topic for a week
Hmm.
and we don't share anything with each other. We all come to the table on the night we record with just the information we found. And then we just kind of throw it out there on the table and just have a discussion. We just talk about it. Kind of like what you said before we started recording. It's like a bunch of buddies at the bar just
Yeah.
talking about some weird information that they found.
And
And that's it. We try to put together the story.
and that's the best way I think because like for me, I mean, you could see, um, God, I have recorded over at least 100 and I'm gonna say I'm close to 130 episodes now.
Mm,
If you think about this, I started this 2 years ago on my own,
yeah.
this venture. And just like you, Danny, I mean, like it was during COVID when I first had, well, there was a big reason what happened in COVID. I tore my knee up.
Oof.
And I was talking to Brian Colburn from my weekly mixtape, and I said, "Dude, let's do a podcast together." I had this itch because I was on his show a couple of times, and I wanted to do
Sure.
something for us, or at least for me. So I'm like, well, I do love sports. I do love, raising awareness. I do love music. I do love video games. I do love movies. I'm a food critic on top of it, because I'm a foodie kind of guy. Even though I just lost like 80 some odd pounds, I'm
Good
not
for you, man.
health reasons, but
Sure, for sure.
but at the end of the day, I feel great about it. As much as I just snowblowed freaking ice outside, I feel I'm not as winded and I wasn't as tired like I used to be.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Give me a day. Let me figure out a concept for us." So he came up with the idea of Playlist Wars, and three buddies,
Which I remember. Yes, I
and
remember that show.
it was I think it was either episode 3 or episode 4 when we were doing Beastie Boys, and I found my niche because I was trying to figure out I felt lost for the first couple of
Mm,
episodes on the show because I just felt like I didn't belong because Brian has such a great knowledge of music,
sure.
and it was scary how well he knows music. I had to do research.
It's intimidating for sure. Yeah, I hear you.
A little intimidating for me, but then I'm like, it was funny. This was my breakout episode was Beastie Boys because we're talking No Sleep to Brooklyn. And if anybody
Yep.
remembers the movie Under not Under Siege, oh Jesus Christ, Out for Justice with Steven Seagal, where he's driving the car No Sleep to Brooklyn,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
people were like, "Oh shit, there you go. That's your niche. That is you right there. Figure out the movies, the music."
Yes.
And
Make the
and it,
connection.
it made the connection. And
Yeah.
and the funny thing is, like, I guess it got a little popular with people because they loved it.
Yeah.
People could gravitate. I mean, they gravitated to Brian a lot too. Don't get me wrong, because his knowledge of music was ridiculous.
Hmm.
The man's a freaking encyclopedia with music. But I was more the I get well, I mean, we had to keep it PG. I'm more of a rated R version, you know what I mean? That's why
Same over here.
it's
Nothing
hard to
wrong with that.
not for me it was very hard because I understand his coworkers listen to the show,
Sure.
but it was so hard for me not to curse. I mean, like I'm trying everything not to say shit, fuck, oh, up your, you know what I mean? I got to think of other
Carlin's whole
words.
list. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, everything you could get banned from the SEC, you know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
So I mean, unfortunately, he's married to with two kids. I'm married with two kids. He has older kids. I have younger kids. So of course our
Mm.
schedulings got messed up. You know what I mean? I couldn't be there sometimes and he couldn't be there sometimes. So we didn't really part ways. We actually ended up taking a hiatus, but then we just couldn't figure out time
Sure.
slots. You know what I mean? And because his kids are
Yeah.
a little bit older than mine. So I just said, why don't we just take a break? Lynn, and he thought it was a good idea because we were grinding too, and he was doing a lot
Yeah.
of the stuff. He did the editing, the posting. I would do the music part, getting it all together, putting it on Spotify, do this, do that, the
Yeah.
lists, and he did everything else. Because Brian is an editor too. He does all that for a living.
Yeah.
I hate it. I think it's the most tedious thing you could do, and that's why I
It's
love the.
yeah. It's
That's just why I
rough.
love. It's why I have no music, no theme music. I just jump into the shit.
Yep.
People love that idea. They love that thing. They love
Yep.
that.
Dude, and not for nothing, man, but it ensures consistency as well,
Yeah.
right? There's no reason for you unless you just, you didn't, record an episode or not. That's the number one reason where we like to, we've gone to a different schedule now. So we were doing every week, and now we're doing every other week because the
Yes, I
editing is
noticed.
tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, the editing is tough, and for the first, I just realized the other day, it didn't even dawn on me. We just hit in January 22nd, we just hit our third year.
Oh, congratulations, man.
Thank you. Yeah, we just hit 3 years in
That's
January. I
awesome.
didn't even realize it. And
That's what happens when you don't
yeah, right?
when you're on a hot streak, you don't realize
No,
what
no,
wait, when you're getting guests, and you can attest to this. I mean, I'm dealing with a few different PR people, you know what I mean?
mm,
And I mean, it's been a blessing with them,
sure.
you know, and it's kind of funny because I was doing every other week last year.
Hmm.
And then once I connected with like three or four of these PR people, then all of a sudden, like
Starts rolling in.
I just was what from from March. So March would be 1 year for me that I just went rolled out
Yeah.
and just was nonstop. I was,
And it takes its toll on you.
I'm
It takes its
not,
toll on
you
you.
know
And
what's
then
funny? I'm
thank
not.
God though that you don't do editing. 'Cause
Oh my
you know how
God.
much more?
I
My
mean,
God, the hours, man, that's crazy.
I would put in so much hours, and and the funny thing is, I'm a card collector too, and and a card
Hmm.
flipper. So I try to make some extra cash on the side, and
Sure.
I take the time to make to do the cards, to look at pricing, to do this, to do
Sure.
that, and I do this, and I said, thank God I don't edit because I'll kill myself, and not
Yeah.
literally, but
No,
it
but
gets
still though, it's
tough.
it's a lot. And I was blessed because I did everything for the first maybe year and a half, 2 years. I
Mhm.
did the editing and the mixing and just the whole nine. And I was happy to do it. It's not like
Mhm.
there wasn't a resentment, but look, I was the creator of the show,
Yeah.
and so that's fine. I got no problem with it. And then so we've had now, aside from myself, we had one, two, three, four. I've had five different co-hosts on my
Okay.
show. So the co-hosts that I have now, Mike and Joe, are not the co-hosts that I had in the first season, and I'm okay with that because I kind of figured, um, I kind of when I saw the show in my head, I saw it having like a revolving door of co-hosts,
Right.
and I was
Right.
cool with that. And so my co-hosts and we've all been friends for at least between all the different co-hosts that I've had.
Mhm.
I've been friends with these guys for anywhere between 25 and 32 years each,
Right. Okay.
and
So yeah,
so
like Brian is my oldest
yeah, yeah.
friend.
And
We're talking over 30 plus years.
exactly. And same here. So the rapport is already there. We already have we got that backstory. So I brought on a guy, Joe, who's one of my co-hosts now. I haven't talked to Joe before Joe came on the show. We
Mhm.
hadn't talked to each other since probably high school. And we met in sixth grade. And dude, this is the weirdest story. I had a dream about him one night. It was really weird.
Right.
And I don't even know if I told him the story, but I had a dream about him. And it's just out of the blue, hadn't spoken to him in 20 something years. And, so we didn't leave off on bad terms or anything, just,
Hmm.
whatever. So I got up in the middle of the night after the dream and I started looking him up on Google. It was really weird. And I found his name and I found somebody with his name as a science teacher back on Long Island. And I was like, this has got to be him. It's got to be Joe.
Right.
And because I remember he was always into science, and I'm like, well, that would make sense. So I ended up emailing him, and I was like, I don't know if you remember me, and he was like, oh my God, Smith, are you good? Like, he was like, you just fell off the face of the earth because I'm not on Facebook, I'm not
Right.
on anything like that, and the only thing is on is Twitter and Blue Sky, and that is just for the podcast,
Hmm.
and I just go by generally on the podcast, I go by Smith. That's the beautiful name about having the last name Smith.
Because everyone's a Smith.
Ain't nobody gonna find me,
Yeah.
and so
Excuse me, Mr. Smith. Yes.
exactly,
You
yeah.
can get like 30 Mr. Smiths.
There's a ton of anonymity in my name, and so anyways, long story short, he comes on the show,
Hmm.
and then out of the blue, he was like, "Hey man, do you want me to help you with editing?" And I was like, "Are you serious?" And he was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Yeah." So I told I said, "All right, get Audacity and this and that," and the dude went on and has just taught and did the same thing I did,
Hmm.
just taught himself how to edit, and he has taken on half the editing responsibility. So we edit every other episode. So I do one, he does the next, I do one, he does the next.
Hmm.
And it has been such a blessing, man. It has cut down, and now we're doing every 2 weeks, where we have a few weeks now to edit one episode, and there's not
Right.
that crazy pressure. And still, but he's a teacher, and he's got a kid, and I'm a teacher, and all of us have kids, all
Yeah.
the co-hosts. And shit, man, there were still times like we just started, I think we missed a week last week, and it just happens.
It
But I kind of
does.
brought in this new concept of the extra credit episodes, which are shorter episodes,
Mm.
anywhere between, about 10 minutes or so. The last extra credit I dropped was just 30 minutes, but I felt it was a very important topic. But yeah, and we'll in those weeks that we're not necessarily dropping a new episode, we'll try to drop a extra credit, and I do
Okay.
them on my own, and Joe will do them on his own, just to kind of keep listenership going and kind
Right.
of just
Right.
keep some sort of consistency. But it's a 10-minute episode, so it's super easy to do, and there are episodes that maybe we would like to do. You can't do a full hour on it, but it's
Mm.
just like a cool, funny little story. Like the one I'm going to drop next is about Roy Sullivan, who is in the Guinness Book of World Records for being struck by lightning the most in human history.
But did he take a
Dude
piece of
got
did he take a piece of rebar and stick it somewhere else?
for real, like you would
Oh,
think,
Jesus
right?
Christ. Was
Dude,
he the
it's
guy? Was he the guy from the Great Outdoors movie?
so that's exactly so I have that clip in this six 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 sixty six six
Six
times
times.
66 times in the head. And so that I actually have that clip in
Oh
the
my
episode. Like that's
God.
in the audio that I'm gonna put in there. This dude got struck 7 times, and it's crazy. Like it's nuts. It's a crazy story, and it gets a little. So my point is like that's not you can't. I don't have anywhere to fit that story in a full episode of
Oh
where
my
we
God.
what our topics are going to be. But it's fun, and I can kind of
It
go
is.
off and do it. So the extra credit episodes we're having some fun with, but it's like back to the main point. Editing is a pain in the ass,
It is.
but it has been a blessing with Joe to come on
And
and
that's a
and
good
to
thing, you know what I mean?
yeah, to help
Wh-
out, man. It's been great.
For me, like, luckily, first of all, I got to thank my wife and my kids for allowing me to do this
Yeah.
because,
Yep.
as now my kids are getting older, it's getting a little bit tougher. But, I work out with everybody like late at night. So I
Hmm.
used to record Mondays and Mondays, Sundays or Mondays. But now my daughter, who's in dance competition, her nights are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, so I have available Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. Okay, whatever. It is what it is. And then
Yeah.
what I'll do is I'll record a bunch of episodes, and literally, like, probably tomorrow, I'm gonna start then because I only have two more episodes, so I gotta start putting into my bank, some more episodes before I because I'll have shows when I'm gone. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll post up only like once or twice a week.
Hmm.
Um, before I work on some things, you know what I mean? Because also, even though I'm gonna be gone, I'm still gonna be talking to some of the connections.
Sure.
And once I get back, I'm gonna have a set schedule when I come back too, because
Yeah.
I don't want as much as like I said, I took off last year in March, and the gravy train's been hitting. And don't get me wrong, my goal is to maybe make some cash out of this too one day. You know what I mean?
It
Like
would be nice.
it would be nice. I would love to, you know what I mean? But
Sure.
like one of the and I'm not mentioning which PR group, but I'm like, when you get back, we want to set up with some big, big clients.
Good.
So
That's huge.
I said, really? Because I know I said to her, I actually said to her, I go, well, there's somebody I really, really want. And she goes, we'll talk. I said, okay, good. You know what I mean?
Put it in the air, man. That's all. Just
Yeah,
put it out
no,
there.
I
See
mean,
what happens.
I've gotten so lucky with some of some of everyone thinks they forget about him, like The Calling was just a
Hmm.
freaking amazing. The guy Alex was so cool,
Yeah,
and let me
it was
tell
a
you,
good episode.
it was a great episode because I didn't know he had Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about that. I'm like, holy shit, like that just
And
stunned the hell out of me.
but that's the nice thing about what your show is I like the you do it's a I maybe intimate's not the best word, but it's not intimate, right? I mean, it's just about talking about, and you don't know what other people, right? What other people are going through, and you
Yeah,
don't know what's up with other people's lives,
like I
you
said,
know?
best way to describe my show, it's two or three or four or five, whatever. You can have six people on the show. I could care less on my show. I don't care. It's like a group of friends,
Sure.
grabbing a cup of coffee, drinking some beers, eating some pizza.
Yeah.
Listen, I've
My
eaten.
favorite, my favorite episode that you did still to this day holds up is you and Beebs. I thought that was just
Oh,
such an
that
that
was
was made that's what made me reach out to you because I
yeah,
was like, oh my God, that was a while ago. That's
that
how
was a
long we've
while
been
ago. I
trying to
mean,
that's how long
Beeves,
we've been trying to get this going.
man, like we went so
It was just such a real,
uh,
honest conversation
it
between
was,
two guys who
and
you
I
could
actually.
clearly see trusted each other.
And
You
I'll
know what
tell
I
you this,
mean?
I actually cried, I think, in that episode too, because we were talking about our families and my dad. And one
Sure,
thing is I was very close to my dad. You know what I mean? I have pictures as I'm doing this episode, there's a picture of me and my dad, and then there's a picture of me and my two kids
mm,
imitating the picture I
yep.
did with my dad, which is kind of funny at Disney.
It's very symbolic. Yeah, yeah,
So, and the other picture I have with my two kids running on my back is here at home, but
yeah,
it's going to be, you know, uh, definitely do I'm just excited because it's one of those things, man. I miss my dad a lot,
sure,
and I'm trying to pass on the knowledge of what I have with my stuff that my dad gave me, you know,
sure.
working hard. He yelled at me like I do with my kids,
Well, that's
but
what it's the dads do.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
I get you.
I mean, I try to make sure they understand, like,
That's the key.
my daughter is now in a dance competition, and she goes, "Oh, the teacher yelled at me." Go, she didn't yell at you. If she yells at you, she's trying to get more out of you because she sees
Yeah,
something in you.
correct.
She goes, "Well,
And
how do you know, Dad?" I go, "Because I was a coach. I was the player. I know
yep,
what it is. When you're yelling at a kid, like in frustrations, because you know that he can do so much more. The
yes.
potential is there."
I just had that conversation with one of my students the other day. And I let him know. I said, "Listen, guys, like when I bust your chops, because like when I get on you, when I ride you, when I bust your chops, whatever the case may be, it's because I care. It's
Yeah,
because I know that you can do better.
yeah,
If I didn't
exactly.
say a word to you and I
I could
just
care
let you
less.
go, I don't care then.
Yeah,
Then
that's the
that's
same
me.
thing I
Like,
am. That's the same thing. I'm
yes,
the same way I am.
like like then if I'm not trying to help you or coach you up, because I was a coach too,
Hmm.
or whatever the case may be, we're correcting the course or trying to help you, whatever, then I don't give a shit.
Hmm.
And like that's where as a student you should be like, well, what the hell? And I don't do that with any of my kids because I care about all of my students. But yeah,
Yeah.
I get like my mom just passed 5 years ago, 6 years ago this
Okay.
year.
Sorry to hear that.
No, it's and
It's
it's
still.
like it's the same thing with my son.
Yeah.
My son was born a year after my mom passed away. So he never got to meet, they never got to
Hmm.
meet each other. And that's one of the most difficult things because my mom, excuse me, is
Hmm.
was my hero,
Yeah,
and my
my dad
mother
was
and
my
yeah,
dad was the same
and
way.
I'm very fortunate because my mother and my wife, were best friends. Like,
Hmm.
that's not how we met, but I mean, like when I introduced my wife to my mom, they became best friends. So they're, you know what I mean? So it's just such a beautiful relationship that they had, but it was so tough because, again, like, a year after my mom passed, we had tried to have a child for years, it just didn't
Hmm.
kind of work. And then once the timing happened, it was a year after she was gone. And I remember that when we were able to announce to the family
Hmm.
that my wife was pregnant, was on the year anniversary of my mom's passing. And
Oh
so my
wow, okay,
my family was all together, and we live in North Carolina, and my family's all in New York, it's where we're from originally. And we were on FaceTime, I think it was, and we were able to play them a little video that I had made,
nice.
about gathering together after the passing of my mom, but then, like, turning the page and there is a new chapter that's going to be written in our family, and the new chapter is our son that's going to be coming. And the whole family lost it. And it was a cool situation, but it was kind of strange too because my little brother, I'm 15 years older than my little brother. So,
Okay.
um, it's quite a big age difference there. And I have two older brothers. So, I got some brothers that are I think my oldest brother is, he's,
The younger brother was the oops, we're sorry.
it's a strange story.
It's
Yeah,
kind of fun.
yeah.
It's kind of funny. I hate to
It's
say
weird,
that. I
but
don't like to say that to anybody's family
no, but
member.
it's, my mom had kids in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. I mean, she had been, doing it for quite a while. But when
Oh my God.
he was born a year after my grandfather, who was my mom's dad, died.
Oh
So it's the
Jesus.
same, it's such a weird thing,
Yeah.
And so, but like I said, well, my son was born, like that. I can completely identify with this. You are trying to pass on the values,
Yeah.
right? Of somebody who, and for him, he knows all about his grandmother.
Hmm.
He knows it because we talk about her constantly to him. And so, yeah, I can identify with that, trying to make
Yeah.
sure
I
that
mean,
your kids, yeah, you pass that torch, so to speak.
the hardest days were for me is, and I'll even say it was the day I got engaged, the day I got married,
Hmm.
and the day I had my daughter, and the day I had my son. Four of the hardest days ever
Hmm.
because my dad wasn't there for any of those.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, he was watching,
Of course, but
but
and again, I can identify. When my son was born, my
yeah,
mom wasn't there.
I
And
mean,
what we did was we have a little green, like kind of like an urn, I guess, right?
yeah,
And it's got some of my mom's ashes. And so we brought that. It's about handheld. We brought that into the hospital room.
okay,
And so, she
my
physically, I guess, was there, right? And so one of the first pictures of my son is him in the swaddle with
right, the
that
urn,
little heart, right? And we
right,
had that put into a big portrait above his bed. So one of the first pictures that was ever taken was him and his grandma, who
and
couldn't
that's the
be
thing.
there.
Like me, like for me, my dad, like before he died, the night before he died, he gave me his wedding ring that I wear around my neck.
Wow.
So I've had this ring around my neck for over 20, almost 23, 24 years now. And I actually got my wedding ring custom made to almost look identical to his wedding ring, except
That's
mine was
cool.
white gold. My wife said, white gold looks good on you and your hand. I'm like, okay. She goes, around your neck is fine, gold, yellow gold, but
Sure, sure.
for your
Yeah, yeah.
hand, you want white gold. I'm like, okay, okay, whatever. I'm not going to argue with her.
The wedding day is about the wife. Absolutely,
Yeah,
100%.
so I wasn't arguing. I mean, I gave up a Mercedes Benz for her freaking ring. So that shows how much I loved her, I guess.
Yep.
Um, I always ripped into her, and I remember we're looking at a new car. She goes, "I want to look at Mercedes." You go, seriously? I go, you do that, you're getting the Telluride. I'm getting the freaking Mercedes.
Yeah, right.
So, but and I always felt I always feel my dad with this ring. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
um, the day before he passed away, he told me make sure no matter what to go. We were very tight with my old high school teammates and team
Mhm.
and the coaches, even after I graduated, because I was blessed enough to coach for a few years
That's cool.
with them. We won a championship together. And, my dad got sick. He actually wanted to see the coaches. I went to the school. I said, "Hey, I'm sorry I didn't coach this year." But my dad was really sick. And like, we kind of figured something was up
Yeah.
when you resigned as a coach. And, we didn't know what was going on. Well, listen, my dad doesn't have much.
Yeah.
He would love to see you guys. And what was really amazing is I think the coach reached out to some of my old teammates and they reached out via,
Wow.
cell phone
Sure. Yeah.
messaging, whatever it was at that point. It wasn't like what we have now, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I was always indebted to them for that, and I'm always thankful for the group of guys that I've met in that high school because I'll tell you that was it's kind of funny. I keep telling my daughter, I go, your dance competition team, it's not just a bunch of girls together. You guys are gonna come together and you're gonna have a
Sure.
sisterhood like I did with my team was a brotherhood.
Sure.
We became one.
Yeah.
When you
And you
become
never
one,
know. You meet, there might be a couple of girls on that squad that might be bridesmaids in your wedding. You don't know.
yeah, you
You know
don't
what I mean?
know.
Like
I mean,
it's that simple, like
it is, and
for
then
sure.
the bond. Here I am. I graduated 25 years later, and I went to a beefsteak for the football team, and the best thing is, dude, and hugs. It's
Yeah.
not just a handshake anymore. It's a hand slap and the biggest hugs because we haven't seen each other for so long.
And you pick up right where you left off, and like
With beers in
that's
our hands. Well, they were
sure.
drinking, I was not.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's one of those things that, it was just a great thing and and I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed just like you are. You know what I
Sure.
mean? That's the way
Yeah,
I
man.
look at it.
Yeah, and like I said, the guys on my show, like I got a core group of about 5 or 6 friends, and a bunch of them have been co-hosts, that I've been friends with for, upwards of 35 years, and I'm super blessed by that. I mean, that's, like the core group of guys that I'm friends with, that ended up being, they were all groomsmen in my wedding.
Hmm.
We have been friends, for longer in my life than we haven't. I'm 42, and I'm having friends that I've been friends with for 35 years is crazy.
Yeah.
That means I spend more of my life with these people than I haven't.
Yes. And
And it's just it's a blessing. It really is. And so yeah, but I realize there's not a ton of people that have that either.
mhm.
That's actually a pretty special thing, to have this core group that can surround you and protect you and be there for when you need them,
So like my core group is all over New Jersey. It's not like we're 5 minutes away from each other
Sure.
anymore.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately we're half an hour, 40 minutes away, and it's hard to even get together. So
Yeah.
luckily, with now my daughter going to school and we're meeting new people. And the good thing is I'm finding people to go golfing with finally. You know what I mean? So I mean for me, it's great because everyone asks me, do I get bored by myself doing my own show?
Mm.
And the answer is no.
Technically, I mean, yeah, I mean, look,
I miss having a co-host, don't get me wrong,
sure, sure.
but sometimes I feel like I'm better off on my own because, and it's nothing against what I've done before. I loved what I did with with Brian,
Hmm.
but I think this was like my breakout too.
And you're in the midst of exploring a new chapter,
Yeah,
right? And that's always exciting. It's a new
yeah,
part of your journey, and that's exciting to see where
yeah.
it takes you and to see what you learn personally, about yourself, I mean, and when you're having people on your show as well, you're not doing it alone either,
No, no, no,
right?
definitely not.
And you get to learn things about other people,
Yeah,
I mean, and that's isn't that really what life is about? I mean,
I
it's about getting to know other human beings and to relate to and understand the human experience
yeah.
from as many different aspects and people and perspectives as possible.
Matter of fact, I had a few people from my school, my high school. One of them, she was in my class. Angela and her son's autistic. I never knew
Mm,
that, and I said, "You want to come on the show and talk about it?" She goes, "I would love to. I want to
yeah,
raise awareness." I said, "So do I. Let's do it."
yeah.
And then another friend of mine who I've known for many years, she's a type 1 diabetic, and we've been getting great friends. I've known her older brother when I was in grammar school. And, when I went to high school, he really put me under his wing with a bunch of great guys that were on the football team. He
Mm,
was on the basketball team, but, he knew a lot of the football players, which I was going on the team. And, he took me in and, me and his sister became great friends. Matter of fact, she was my prom date too, my senior year.
nice.
So it
Yeah,
was just good to have somebody there that I knew and I trust, you know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. And the trust
And
factor is big.
yeah, and she's a type 1 diabetic, and we talked about that. She did a huge bike ride that she raised awareness for. And then I had a kid that I coached in high school,
Hmm.
and he's married with, I think, 3 kids, and 2 of them are twins, and they have CP. And he's a Marine, and he's a Texas sheriff down in Texas. He's a sheriff in Texas. So to me, he's a living legend,
Right, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
and his,
And
and his
and
in his military background too.
And for you to play the, even a small role or a large role doesn't matter. For you to have played a role in that is awesome, right?
Yeah,
But
I
then they
mean,
meet back up and to help, and I love the idea of raising awareness. And I to an extent, and I guess so. I've been thinking about this a lot with my show. I've always, that's the reason why I'm a social studies teacher is I've always been very politically aware
mhm,
and very politically charged in a way. And there's been a part of me that I liked we kind of strayed away from politics
mhm,
in the first like two seasons on my show. Things would come out, here and there, whatnot, little comments here and there. But
yeah,
over the past I'd say over the past season or so, I kind of lifted the veil a little bit. And you can certainly see where in the last season, you can certainly see where I stand on the political spectrum. But I feel like to me, there's a point in time where silence is complicity. And I feel as though if I'm not saying something, then that's almost as bad as doing what it is that I'm upset about, right?
right,
And so there is, I think there's a very special place for advocacy, and I think there's a
mhm,
very special place for raising awareness,
yeah,
and especially for people who may be going through something that we aren't,
yeah.
right? And and that's the thing because
Actually,
it's like
I'm waiting to hear from
it's
somebody that I can't talk about it yet because
sure.
it's a major thing. And matter of fact, she's another friend from high school.
Mm,
And
there you go. And especially
and
if you can reach back into the past and try to help somebody
yeah,
who you have history with, I think it's important.
it
And again,
is.
whether or not, especially on the political side, hey, obviously, we're not all gonna see eye to eye and whatnot, and that whatever the case is the case. And I have noticed that since some of my shows, and I try again, I'm not making every episode about it. That's not. But
Yeah.
every once in a while, I'll throw something out there, all right, that has something to do with something in the news or whatnot. And I have noticed though, there has been my following on Twitter
Hmm.
has dropped a little bit, but I'm all right with that too because whatever, man. I'm not going to apologize for my beliefs and whatnot. But again, going back to the root part of this conversation is
Hmm.
raising awareness
Yeah.
and bringing awareness to something that somebody else is going through or struggling with is an incredibly admirable thing. And we have albeit might be small compared to Rogan and the other ones that we're up against, but having a podcast is a platform,
Yeah.
regardless in itself, and being able to use that is huge to help
Oh no,
somebody.
without a doubt. I mean, for me, I've had two major addictions. People that came on the show. One being an old friend of mine from grammar school. We go back to grammar school days.
Sure,
And then the other
sure.
gentleman was through his girlfriend, which they are so happy they just had their baby, and
Mm,
I'm so proud of him. Man, he's come such a long way
yeah,
from his drug days and to how clean and sober he was. Matter of fact, the day I released the show, he was already past 1 year sober.
that's awesome.
So
That's awesome.
and to see them as I follow them on Instagram and I see them how happy they are and
Yeah,
how they are and that's the thing. Everyone thinks I'm like this funny, great guy, but we all have demons too.
sure,
Like
man.
I've had my own personal things, and I sometimes to do the show, I gotta set them aside, and I have to think of the show sometimes too.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Um, Politically, I'll tell you this, I I get into arguments when it comes to politics. That's
I
why
think we all do, right? That's the nature of
it,
politics there.
unfortunately, when it comes to politics, I have different views than other people. People have
And
asked
that's
me,
okay.
I mean, and that's the thing. I'm me and you're you. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. We could argue and try to pull points on each other, but guess what? At the end of the day, no one's either smarter or better than the other person.
Sure, sure, absolutely.
And that's
And
that's the battle that I fight. So you know what? I stopped talking about politics, and I mean I never put politics on any of my shows
sure, yeah.
between Playlist Wars and here. The reason why is that sometimes when people get in my face, I start getting aggravated.
Yeah, I could believe me. So we were gonna do an episode on flat Earth. Well, so we did an episode on flat Earth, right?
Mhm.
And just a small example of that. And so we were like, all right, how do we approach this? Like, what do we do? And one of my co-hosts suggested, like, why don't we get somebody on who, is a flat Earth proponent? And I immediately shot it down, and I was like, no. And it wasn't like I don't want to give somebody else a platform. I knew I was gonna get upset. I was
Mhm.
gonna get fucking pissed, and I was
Yep.
gonna start screaming at this person.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm not going to invite somebody on my show for me to rip them apart. Like that's not what the show is
The
about.
same thing with me. Listen,
Yeah, like I'm
I
not
could
going to put a situation where I go at somebody. You know what I mean? Like I invited you on. I'm going to treat you as a guest. So
exactly.
I'm not going to go at you. Like it's not going to happen.
I had one guest, a repeating guest, ask me right during the election time,
Mm,
and she knew I was not a huge politics
sure, sure, sure,
person. So she did ask me, and she goes, "Who are you voting for?" I said, "This is the person I'm voting for. These are my reasons why, and I feel confident with this person."
sure,
Notice I'm not mentioning he or
sure,
she
absolutely. Hmm.
because people will see it a different way. You know what I mean? But I feel
Yeah.
that, you know, was the country great in 8 years ago? You know what? It's been so long that this country has been great that I can't even imagine, the
Hmm.
crap that's going to happen for these next 4 years compared to what it was last 4 years.
Yeah.
And compare the other 4 years after that during COVID. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in reality, in the last eight, I'm just gonna say 9 years right now, in two different presidencies, it's been the most difficult, no matter who was the president. It doesn't
It's
matter.
a tough time. Yeah.
It's a
I'll
tough
tell you,
time.
man. Like I said, we cover. I'm a history teacher.
Hmm.
I teach government. I teach civics, and so all of this stuff and the current events and the administrative,
Hmm.
all that stuff is I literally talk about it every day because I have to,
Yeah.
and it's also something that I am very passionate about and whatnot. But again, with a podcast that kind of touches upon history quite a bit,
Yeah.
parallels between what we've seen and what we're seeing and blah blah blah, it comes to the forefront a lot. But I will tell you this: it was a couple of years ago. I was at my cousin's wedding up in Vermont, probably 8 years ago maybe,
Okay.
and I sat down with somebody who is the complete opposite end of the spectrum of my political beliefs.
Oh boy.
And we were at my cousin's wedding, and it was, it was in the after party, right, with the reception, and we're hanging out. And I think it was actually even after the reception. Whatever, it doesn't
It
matter.
was the after party.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we're sitting there, and again, we are the complete opposite end of the spectrum.
Hmm.
And this gentleman that I was speaking with, actually forget what he was, like an intern for a political
Ugh.
for a politician.
Right.
And so this guy like, was like worked, like he was in the shit,
He was in
he
the
was in the
soup.
shit. He saw
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
And as Tom Morello would say, because Tom Morello, the guitarist from Rage Against the Machine, used to
Hmm.
used to be an intern as well. And he was like, and he always said he would see the way the political sausage is made. And so this guy the same way, right? Anyways, we sat down and we had a conversation for about probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it was the most civil and enjoyable conversation I have
Yeah.
ever had with anybody about politics in general. And we happened to be on the two complete opposite sides.
Hmm.
And it was it was just an eye opener for me because it was this reminder that if someone has a different belief than you, it's okay to talk and it's okay to disagree. Fine, there should be
It
disagreement because
should
that's how
be
compromise happens. But
right.
a civil discourse is so healthy. But in today, in the last, man, how many administrations, it's so hard to come by.
Yeah.
But it's okay. And a lot of these people, not, I mean, let me phrase that because myself in general, it is all, we, it kind of gets to this point where it's like, if somebody has a different political view, it's to speak with someone
Yeah.
and to have a conversation is not, that doesn't mean you're not defending your position, if that makes any sense. Like, you don't have to go to war with everybody. It's all right to just talk. I
No,
can
no, I get
disagree
you.
with you vehemently,
Yeah.
but we can still talk. You know what I mean? And
Well,
I
that's the funny thing. I agree with you 100%. I'll just say I had a person who his political views is very, very, very different from mine.
hmm
And during the time he he got into a heated argument with me. I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm not even trying to get into this conversation with you. And then
yeah,
he blew up on me, and I said, well, fuck you too.
it's so
I
volatile. It can be very
it got
volatile.
let me put it this
Yeah,
way. I left my job. I went home for a little bit. I actually didn't go home. I just went somewhere, parked the car. Just
sure.
I had to calm down because I was ready to really throw punches because I
It could get
was
your blood to boil.
it
Absolutely.
and I came
That's
back and you could cut the tension
Mm,
so bad with a knife.
sure.
And, the person did apologize 2 months later, but
Better late than never, right? I guess.
I'll be honest with you, I still have, I'm talking to him, but I'm still haven't forgiven him
Yeah, yeah, I understand.
because,
And I'm not gonna lie either, man. There are, look, when politics is involved, it goes hand in hand with passion for sure.
yeah, oh,
Because if
without a
you're
doubt.
talking about either you like politics or you don't, right? Or you're in it, or you pay attention or you don't. My wife does not. She doesn't pay attention to politics at all. That's just not her bag, and that's all right. But if you are paying attention to politics, there is a degree of passion that is involved, right?
Oh, without a doubt. Just
And
like
that
any,
stuff.
it's like even being a sports fanatic
I
like
was gonna
me.
say, sports is the
I
same way,
mean,
man.
I'm more passionate. I'll be honest with you, I am not passionate of politics
Hmm.
because of
I can see
arguments.
you were a sports guy. Your hat collection is fantastic, by the
Oh,
way.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I have
You have an amazing
one,
hat
two,
collection.
three. Wait, you
Every
know
time
what?
I see you online, you've got a different hat on. I love it.
Oh yeah, I know. Today I didn't want to put a hat on, but you know what? I'll just do this. Oh wait, no, no, sorry. See, this is what I
Yeah, it's all
love
good.
on edit. I love not having my thing edit here. All right. Do not
Real
burn my.
life.
All right, none. Okay. So my room, my private collection room here.
Sure.
eh, You can see Rangers jerseys,
Love it.
Anaheim Duck jerseys, my hat collection. Then I come over here to my wall. There's hockey,
Love it.
hockey, hockey, hockey. Back behind me, more hockey and football
Yep.
and my video games, and then my
And see, the
jerseys.
fact that we can talk, see, I vehemently, there is probably nothing more on this earth that I hate more than the New York Rangers. I hate them. I can't stand the New York Rangers.
I
I'm
am
an
a.
Islanders fan. And back in the
I
day, so
hate
I'm a
the.
huge hockey
I
fan as well.
I hate the Islanders.
I
I hate
was
the Islanders with a passion.
I was a Devils fan actually for many years when I was younger, going
Oh,
back
jeez.
to the Terrari days, right? Back in
Chris
the late,
Terrari. Yep,
yeah,
yep.
yeah, back in the late '80s with the Christmas colors, prior to Brodeur coming up and all that stuff. So I was a Devils fan when they still sucked. And then I remember very much. I mean, I was dude '94
Right.
Devils Rangers, Stefan Matteau, the wraparound goal,
Yep.
which absolutely destroyed my soul. Matteau, Matteau. I mean,
Mattel. Yep.
I remember watching that game. And dude, it cemented my hatred for the Rangers. Like that. But that series was so unbelievable.
Oh, it
Oh
was
my
one of the.
God, that
It
series
was.
was still to this day, I think my favorite hockey series I've ever watched in my
Oh
life. It
no,
was,
if anybody who knows me, I still talk about that.
yeah, and
As a
and
Ranger fan, I granted, don't get me wrong, you know what I mean? But it's kind of funny you say Martin Brodeur.
that was my boy. Oh my God, that was my boy.
I hate Brodeur with a passion.
I'm sure, but you
Uh,
got to give him up. Maybe he's a damn
oh,
good goalie. I mean, it's
the
as
only
much as I
thing,
can't stand Mike Richter, the guy was a good goalie.
oh
I
yeah, I
mean,
mean, well, Mike Richter, is a different class, but it's kind of funny you're saying Brodeur. So like I said, I collect cards, and you're gonna be kind of jealous when I show you this one.
you know what's funny? I have that same card.
And what's funny is that he's not wearing his number 30.
No, he's not. No, he's not. I
He was
have the
wearing.
same one. Yes, that's in my safe, actually. That
I
was when he
just
came up earlier
I
and did not have
found.
his.
Yep,
Yep.
I found this
I
card.
have that same one.
I found that card. Okay, with this card.
Is that a Pavel Bor? Oh, my God, that's a nice one.
It's a super rookie of Palve Bure.
Wow. So
Uh,
all right. So funny story. I got to go in a couple minutes because my wife is heading out to her appointment, but I'll
it,
leave you with this story.
yeah.
So my favorite player on the Devils was Johnny McClain. Love Johnny Mac, right?
Oh
Just
yeah.
that
Great.
hard-nosed player.
Yep.
Devils, him, Kenny Danico, Bruce Driver, all those
Yeah.
guys, they were just, they were, I know that Scott Stevens, I know Stevens played, they all
Oh
played for
yeah.
different. Anyways, Johnny Mac was my guy. And so I sent in a card. This is when I used to play at the Meadowlands. So
Yeah.
I sent in
Brendan
a
Byrne
John.
Arena.
Yep, yep, yep. So I played it. I sent in. I mailed them the New Jersey Devils
Mhm.
a McLean card and a Danico card, and I think it might have been I think it might have even like a Scott Stevens. I'm not sure, but I wrote him this letter and I put in. And here's the key, kids. If you're out there and you're listening, the key is you got to put a self-addressed envelope back in there because they're
Yeah.
not going to write out an envelope back to your house. You got to make it easy for them. So anyway,
Yeah.
I sent in the self-addressed envelope, and about 5 or 6 months later. I get an envelope in the mail and I'm like, this looks just like my handwriting because I completely forgot that I sent it out. So my Danico and my Stevens card were gone. I don't know what happened. Maybe they took them. I'm not sure. But I got the John McClane card that I sent, plus three other John McClane cards, all signed by Johnny Mac.
That's
And it was,
awesome.
dude, it was so cool. I was like, are you fucking serious? Like, that's
I
crazy.
know you gotta leave, but I have my wife gave me my very first Mike Richter picture autograph.
Wow. Are you
And then,
serious?
yep, this is right after this is the year a year after we were just I just moved in, we got engaged.
Hmm.
I haven't been to a Ranger game since 1994.
Really?
The last game I went to was with my dad, game seven.
Gotcha.
I have not
The hell
stepped
of a memory to walk off on, though. Ride into the sunset with that memory for sure.
so when I mean I'm a diehard Ranger fan, I stayed home. I watched every game since because it was not the same without my dad.
Sure.
So my wife realized how big she was a Devils fan. She turned into a Rangers fan because of me.
She crossed over to the dark side.
I called the Devils the dark side. The Rangers are the Jedi side
Fair enough.
because I'm a
Fair enough.
Jedi. I'm a Jedi guy. I'm a Star Wars
Me too.
fanatic
Me
too. On
too.
top of it,
Me too. I
um,
understand.
and I'll show you something before you're gonna love this one thing I had made up for myself.
Nice.
Someone drew this. He works for Tops too, and he sold it on Whatnot, which is kind of
Wow.
funny.
Okay.
I'll show you before we take off. So my wife got me this picture, autographed from Mike Richter. It's the most beautiful picture I've ever seen.
That's cool.
My wife, God bless her, bought me my first Lundqvist jersey.
Wow. King
Okay.
Henrik.
Yep, King Henrik. So of course I fell in love with her even more that night, that
Of course.
Christmas morning. That's after I got engaged too. We were planning our wedding.
Yeah.
But
It's like I'm definitely marrying you now.
the best gift she could ever give me was two tickets during Christmas week off to Madison Square Garden to go see the Rangers play the Capitals.
Wow.
Okay. And I haven't stepped foot to the Garden since 1994.
Wow.
No concerts, no shows, no games, no nothing. It's the first time. I mean, I got emotional going to
Yeah.
the game. And my wife knew I was because it just meant so much to me. And ever since then, now we go to at least once a year, or even it
Good.
depends how we can get there. We try to go at least once a year, or if not, I've gone by myself. I've been
Yeah.
to a few Ranger playoff games against the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
I,
But good. Screw the Hurricanes. I can't stand them.
I, I
I'm in Carolina and I hate them. It's
I
ridiculous.
don't. Sorry.
The Mickey Mouse
Um,
Club.
yeah, I know. And then as we're about to sign off, so people can find you, as anybody knows, I am a huge Star Wars nut.
Hmm.
So I've met some great Star Wars people, and I met somebody who is a part-time tops card maker.
Yeah.
And I asked him to make this picture. And I'm an Anakin fanatic. I like Anakin, but I also didn't
Yeah.
like and not a huge fan of Vader, but I like
Mm.
the transformation that they did for
Sure.
Anakin into Vader.
I
But he
thought that
turned
was
out to
very
be
good.
good. So for me, I'm a diehard Anakin fan. This is what I
Sure.
asked him to make.
That is amazing.
This is a one of one, of one of
That's
one.
gorgeous.
Okay,
I
so
love it.
I asked him to make me a half Vader, half Anakin picture
That's
with the two
gorgeous.
lightsabers,
Yep, yep, yep.
showing the good to the
The
evil.
light and the dark. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, he knocked that picture out of the park.
Hey, damn straight he did.
I
I think it's
think that was
gorgeous.
the best $80 I ever spent on a photo.
Hell yeah. Hell
And
yeah.
and that's the thing. Like, I'll even show you this. These four cases right here,
Hmm.
those are all my Star Wars stuff.
Nice.
I
Nice.
have Gem 10s. Matter of fact, I just bought last night through Whatnot a Gem 10. It's a refractor wave. I've never
Hmm.
seen this one. It's Boba Fett, Han Solo, and Carbonite with Vader.
Wow, that's amazing. Dude, that's cool.
That's it's I cannot wait to get that in my hands. And I picked up a Luke Skywalker. I have
Yeah, yeah,
two
yeah.
Anakin. I have like three Anakin
When
10s in there.
when you get that, you have to send a picture to me. You gotta
Oh,
let
don't
me
worry,
know.
I will. As soon as I get
All right.
I bought five of them from him.
Nice.
Five different
Okay.
cards. I bought two Kylos, a 9 and a
Nice.
10.
Hmm.
I bought that
Hold
one.
on, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Oh,
I know
just
we
let me
got
know.
yeah, and I bought two other more, and then it's just literally put it this way. I don't know, Ahsoka with her
Mm.
two lightsabers, a refractor, which was a 9, and I think I bought another 10. The one I wanted, my buddy, I didn't buy it because of my buddy.
Yeah.
It was It was a Clone Wars, the cartoon Clone Wars. It's Anakin with Obi-Wan and somebody else, and it was a beautiful wave. And I'm like, oh, I want that. But I'm like, I'm a bigger Anakin fan than he is, but I didn't want to do it. As much as I wanted to be that asshole, I didn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Fair
but
enough.
once I think next week I'll have it here, I think, because he'll ship it out tomorrow. So
Okay.
by the end of the week or by Monday, I should have it, next Monday.
Nice,
So
nice.
I'm so looking forward to it because it's one of those
Yep.
like giddy about it. And when I go to Disney, I already have the thought of building my own lightsaber already.
Good, good man.
So
Good man.
as we're getting ready to sign off, Danny, where can these guys, where can everybody, not just my guys, but your guys, everybody's guys, find you for your show?
You can find us on any platform that you get your podcast on. The name of the podcast is The Story Of. We are on Twitter at Podcast Story Of, and then Blue Sky as well at The Story Of. So anywhere you get them, if you could, it would be great if you could find us on Good Pods. That always certainly helps out quite a bit. But anywhere you get your podcast, we're on all major platforms.
All right, Danny, thank you so
Brother
much for
man,
your time.
been an honor, my friend.
Honor to have you on finally, 9 months in the making.
Yep, yep.
Finally, great show, great times, man. Can't wait. So, guys, as you can see, dreams do come true. As indie podcasters, we do network and help out each other, as you can see. And like
Mhm.
I always end these shows, it's nothing but love, peace, and happiness. Well, I can't say good night. I can say good day. Oh, well, whatever. See you guys in the next episode. Have a great one, guys.